play this little video that someone from Peggie's church put together right after she died, just photographs from her life. And then I'm going to open it up for people to just tell stories about Peggie. And if you want to come up to the mic, you can. If you want to just stand up and speak, you can, but we might make you come up to the mic if your voice isn't projecting. But yeah, let's just get started. Thank you all so very much for coming.
Gray sky above my head, long to make these clouds my pillow. To the heavens I am led, when my heart is still, no other way to work it. If I will not listen to the silence sing its song, there's no one beating on the drum, no swaying Celia, small voice seems to cry out from the big gray sky above my head, long to make these clouds my pillow. To the heavens I will be led, when my heart is still, no other way to work it. If facing we stand, let the dance begin. Let the dance begin. Show me to my shoes, give me a downbeat. We can only win if we only choose to follow his lead. I'll let the dance begin. Won't you show me to my shoes, give me a downbeat. We can only win if we only choose to follow his lead. Let the dance begin. Let the music be his love. Take my hand, facing we stand, let the dance begin.
Man, it's so cool seeing all of you here. And it's been kind of an interesting experience. This is so unexpected. I know death's always unexpected, but you don't expect one of your younger siblings to go first. When we had heard that Peggie was dead, I was actually at my mom and dad's house in Kentucky, so I had driven up to Kentucky from Dallas, and we got the word, and we jammed directly from Kentucky the other 700 or some miles to New York, where she died. And the first thing that came to my mind, and the real truth of what was going on there, when I saw Annie, first thing out of my mouth was, she was the best of us. And from all the people that I've talked to over the last couple of months, it seems like that's been the sentiment, that she just radiated Christ's love. And she lived it out in her daily life better than anybody I know. That's funny, I was so calm when I did this twice before. But y'all are my, you guys are the ones I've known the longest.
It's okay for God.
What?
It's okay for God.
Yeah, okay. But I think the thing that's most striking about Peggie, and the thing that I remember most, was the spark that she had. Growing up, I kind of had to learn how to deal with people. I didn't make friends really quickly, and I was more shy than she was. But it always amazed me that when she came in a room, how the room would light up. And it was so effortless for her. And it was just miraculous watching her as she got older, turn that into all the friendships that she had made and all the people that she just automatically cared for right off the bat. And we were a motley looking bunch. Have you ever seen so many mullets? But the really beautiful thing is that Peggy was able to see Christ in just about everything. She's able to see the beauty in the tragedy that we deal with. I miss her positive outlook on everything. And she was able to roll with it because she just gave it up to God in a way that I never was able to do. So we are sad. But the way she died was the way she lived. So she was on a girls outing with my wife and daughter, her daughter and Annie in New York. It was like a typical thing for her. She made a friend on the train from the airport to Brooklyn, something I wouldn't suggest is a great idea. But that was kind of Peggy. And they became fast friends, and he was a promoter of a salsa band that was playing around in the area. And so they became fast friends. Oh yeah, you should come see, the band I'm doing, and yeah, of course we'll be there tomorrow night. Let's go do that. And they did, and she was walking out in front of everybody with this guy, this stranger she had just met. They were like, seriously, best friends. And Jane, poor Jane, with her two fake hips, is hobbling along behind, trying to keep up, but they're just, on the way. And they ate, and they drank, and they danced. And that not being enough, they ended up going to a disco after that, and they danced.
Which is why we're here.
And Peggy danced a lot. She seemed to dance in life. And so that's what we're here to do. Sorry I'm so out of whack, but this is a celebration. And every person I've come to talk to during this time, I've been able to go and say, how did Peggy impact your life? And it's never, we were just an acquaintance. It's always, she did something materially important in my life. So I know there's stories, and I'd love to hear them all. And we've got time. So please hang around, talk. Like I said, like Andy said, if you don't feel good coming up to a mic, just stand up where you are and let us know what Peggy did for you. Thank you.
When I think of Peggy, I always think of Peggy and Kenny. That's just the way it was, Peggy and Kenny. And she did something materially important for me in my life. I had this plan, this idea, that I wanted to put together an album, a children's album. And I went to my two most prominent musical friends at the church, Kenny and Peggy, and they said, sure, we'll help you. And so we went to their family room, set up a reel-to-reel, back in the days, good old analog system, and put together a children's album. And I remember Peggy with that smile, you know, she was on the keyboards with Tully, who was newly arrived, and very anxious to be a part of everything. And then she'd be out here with percussion with Tully, and then she'd be running across the studio after Tully, and we'd have to redo tracks because of Tully. And Peggy was always smiling, and it was a really positive experience. And I just hope you realize, Katie, how important and how fun that was, and how important it was for me, for you guys to do that. And on my little cassette tape, we called the studio Noisy Boy Studio. And you'll be happy to learn I'm this year finishing up a project, and I'm going to redo that album. So the dream is still alive. Anyway, thank you.
You know, I had the good fortune of knowing the whole Cruz family, and Peggie and Jen, and Peggie was about that tall, and Brian was just a couple inches taller. And years, they left the Bay Area, they came back, they were in Sunnyvale, and the one thing, and I don't know why, I don't even eat Baskin Robbins ice cream anymore. I'd get to their house, and the first thing Peggie, she'd come running up, "Are we going to see Sam Coutu?" And Sam Coutu happened to be a really good friend of mine, owned a Baskin Robbins store close to their house. So Brian and Peggie and I would go to Sam Coutu's. She never called it Baskin Robbins. It was Sam Coutu's. So, and I still, to this, I tell my kids, I've got 6 kids and soon to have an 8th grandchild, and they'll all hear it. Because Peggie just, like Brian said, she lit up your life. She lit up, she was bigger than life, completely was. Anyway.
I have to tell one quick story. We were following Jackie or somewhere, Peggie and I, and I got the wild idea to give Peggie a kiss at the stoplight. And my foot came up off the clutch and we ran into the back of his car. Just barely, you know.
Hello. I'm Brian's sister-in-law, but I've known Peggie almost all my life. I actually knew Peggie and the Quick family before my sister was lucky to get Brian as a husband. Grew up with Annie, my little bestie at church. But I'm watching this beautiful montage of pictures and memories that I'm not sure who you said put it together, but it was great, and it just reminded me that some of the best years of my life were when I went to church and grew up in church, and that's where I spent most of my time with Peggie and Annie and that family. And I'm looking at this going, that smile, she had a smile in every single picture. And like Brian said, she lit up the room, and the music, listening to the music, and I have to tell this story. I think I've already told it a couple times today, but I'm going to tell it again. We were visiting my sister and Brian down in Southern California, and we went to the lake, and Kenny and Peggie show up with 12 suitcases full of instruments, between spoons and slinkies and whatever else they had in there. And I swear it lasted from probably early afternoon until the sun went down. But I think we played, yes, me too. She made me feel like I could play the spoon or the slinky. I have no experience with instruments at all, but Peggie made me feel like I did. And that's kind of what made me just think to myself, I gotta tell that story again, because we were on that beach and she was smiling and I grabbed a spoon or whatever it was. And she said, "You can do it." And she made up a song. Oh no, we're at the beach, whatever. And she just kept singing, and then, and she grabbed something else, and Kenny grabbed something, and it was just like, you just feel so happy when you're around Peggy. And, like I'm sure everyone here was in shock and, devastation when we heard that Peggy had passed, and I just want to let you guys know, Marie, I know you're back there. I love you all. I have so many memories of your family and of Peggy. She was a beautiful spirit. She touched me since I was a little itty bitty.
You went to Mount Carmel on Easter Sunday and you and Annie and high heels.
Okay, so I might as well tell that story, because if not, she will. I want to make sure I tell it right. So, we go to Easter Sunday up on the hill. Do you remember this or no? I thought I was so cool in the 80s, wearing my little strapless dress with the big white flowers on it and these high heel pumps, which I don't wear heels. This is as high as I get. And we're walking up the hill. No one told me it was a hill, by the way, Marie. So walking up the hill. You got it, you got it. All the way up the hill, which never made me feel bad. Yes, I do remember that, Marie. Thank you for sharing. That was a long time ago. But anyway, I just want to say that I'm just glad I'm here and able to celebrate Peggy's life too, because she was a big part of mine. So.
Katie, I'm Wayne's wife. I saw Peggy when she was pregnant and not so happy and didn't feel well. And she would bring Tully to our home for us to babysit. And she'd just drag in, and she wasn't well, and just sit there at the table, and I would feed her peanut butter sandwiches because it was the only thing that she could eat. And so it was fun to have her so happy and perky. And I think she was pregnant when we were doing that children's album. But to know her in one capacity and then be able to sit with her at the table when she was a mom and pregnant and not feeling well and discouraged, and know that she was also happy and perky and yet just a typical mom like the rest of us with her own situations and concerns. But it was such a pleasure to be able to meet with her in that sort of a capacity.
Oh God, sorry. I wanted to pick up on that a little bit. It's easy when someone dies to gloss over their imperfections and flatten them out and make them a saint. And it's especially easy with my sister because she was so good and kind in so many ways to all of us in so many important ways. But the thing about my sister is that she was also a real person, and she was also frustrating and disorganized and could never show up on time. But in spite of all that, she wasn't a fancy person. When she was, in her young 20s, she was so beautiful and so full of life, and she kept that throughout her whole life. But even when she was a middle-aged Baptist lady from the suburbs, she would come to New York, and we went to a disco in a bar in Bushwick that I've never been in before, full of 25-year-old hipsters, and she owned the dance floor because she had this preternatural way of just having confidence and not caring what anyone thought of her. The thing that I think about and hold on to, and the thing that I hope that I can learn from my sister is just how unfancy her life's work was. Her life's work was to make sure that we all knew that we were loved. And she did it very well. And she did it so well that we were all able to take it for granted in one way or another. And it was my entire life, the air that I breathed. I read a study recently that says that if you have a sister, you have a small but significant improvement in your life outcomes, your happiness and your success and your school grades and how many books you have in your library, all those whatever measurements they. And for me, it was so much more than a small but significant outcome. My sister I always knew that my sister loved me 100%, and that I could never do anything to disqualify from her love. And how many people can say that about their sister? Or anyone? Very few people have even one person like that in their life. And that is not a fancy life work, but it is the most basic, significant, important life work to have, to make people know that they are loved. And that's something my sister so excelled at. And I hope that's something I've been trying to excel at too, for her sake.
Okay, I was thinking about whether or not I was going to tell this story, but since Annie, there's a mic. Bring it down to person. Anyway, Annie was talking about her imperfections, and I thought about this story before, and I was over at their house once, and Kim was doing something, I don't know, she was irritated with him, and she says to him, "If you ever marry anybody else, I don't know how they'll put up with you." And Ken says to her, "No, I'm never going to marry anybody else." And she says, "Lucky them." And another time, you can talk about imperfections. I remember we were at Baymont, we were doing a concert there about pre-flight days, and I guess it was a new song that she was having trouble with, and she kept on playing the wrong notes, and it's not going well. So finally, in the middle of the song, she stops and she says, "Forget it." And she was a great person, and I actually had that on videotape. Not the Ken story, but if I find it, I'll post it.
I've been a musician and been in bands my whole life, and every time I'm on stage and something really goes wrong, I think about that moment where Peggy just said, "Forget it!"
Do you do that? Cruz maybe promised that we would take the whole hour. But Carolyn and I were talking earlier, and she said, "I think the last time I saw you was at Rose's, and I'm pretty sure it was at your graduation, because Marie, I'm going to talk about you." So, we were all singing karaoke. I don't know if you remember that. And Steve actually brought up the actual song, because I forgot what song it was, and you were singing Peter Gabriel, "Might As Well Face It, You're Addicted to Love." And Peggy didn't want to let you sing that without having backup dancers. So, me, and you weren't there, it was me, Carolee, and Peggy. Remember that? And here's just us behind Ryan. Robert Palmer, excuse me. Did I say Robert Palmer? Sorry. Me and Peggy were here, she would have corrected me. So anyway, but the reason I wanted to come back up again is because I kind of, when she had mentioned that, my mom was there too. And Jane and I lost our mom, it'll be a year next month. And you, Murray, were sitting with my mom singing a song. I wish I could remember what song it was. It wasn't Robert Palmer. And you guys just fed off of each other. You know, you said Peggy was the instigator. You and my mom were instigating a lot that was going on that night. So we know where Peggy got it from. But I just wanted to thank Carolee for bringing that up because that memory just came to me tonight. And my mom loved Peggy too, and I just wanted to say that I'm at peace with knowing that Peggy's up there singing with my mom right now. Love you guys.
So, obviously, what I remember most about my aunt is the singing and the laughing and just the goofiness, and I guess I got part of that from my dad too, because they were all goofy. But one of my last memories of her was on our New York trip. And it's kind of funny because I didn't realize this until we're sitting at lunch and having the conversation, but she was also so wise. And being a 20-something in my first apartment, you know, I get advice from my parents, but, you know, you don't really want to take the advice that your parents give you. So I'm sitting at lunch with my mom and my Aunt Annie and my Aunt Peggy, and I'm going on and on about all the issues that I'm having with my roommate, and she's just sitting there giving me all this advice. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. I should totally do that, even though my parents are telling me the same thing. So it's kind of one of those things I don't, you know, I didn't realize it until she was gone, but I really appreciated the advice that she gave and the wisdom that she had and the words that she was saying. And it's funny how we take that kind of stuff for granted. And I ended up going back and having that conversation with my roommate, and ended up, you know, we talked it all out and everything ended up fine. And so it's like, it's kind of like, it was that aha moment where I feel like if it hadn't been for that trip, if it hadn't been for that conversation, I wouldn't be in this position right now. So I'm just very grateful.
I really should say something, and can you see me okay? Okay, anyhow, hey, you know, before I start with Peggy, I just got to say the Quick family. What a bunch of oddballs. I got to tell you, it's like, when I first met them, it's like, I mean, it's like, they invited me to a tuna party after church, you know, and things like that. And I thought, I found my people. It was just, I never met a more enfolding kind of family, and it's just like, it was, I mean, you wanted to be with them. You wanted to, and Peggy came from that. And with Peggy, it's like, yeah, there was some irritating things. She always finished my sentences for me. Kenny and I went by her work in Scotts Valley one day, and she put, you had to write down a little thing for a name tag. And so she plopped it on me, and I looked and it says, "Cousin It." so I don't know, maybe my hair was a little long, I don't know. Yeah. But I remember Kenny and I were hanging out at his house. We were trying to get a college group going. And then we heard about this new girl coming to the church. So we were making calls, so we had to call her too. And she couldn't get rid of us after that. But anyhow, that's kind of how I think it started. And then we did a lot of, Kenny and Peggy and I did a lot of things together, and then with the family. And
tell them about the dinner that they made with rice.
No. But yeah, I didn't say we ate well. But we did have a tuna party. But anyhow, it was just a lot of. It was always a lot of fun. It was always a lot of life, and had so much fun with the Quick family and with Kenny and Peggy and Annie and just all the people that were around, and Eric too, eventually, and I just always appreciated that, and it's kind of something that kind of lives in your heart forever, and I just wanted to say that because I think it was an awesome time in my life, and thank you. I'll stop right there.
I have to say this because I have to thank Annie, because when the Quicks came into Frank's life, I was in college, I was away, and he goes, "Oh, Barb, you have to come back and meet this cool family." But Annie ended up moving into our house for a year, and Frank, I'm so sorry, Annie, but I thank you so much, because Frank was so irritating to her, and I was the only sister left around. And he would just pick on her, and when he picked on her, he could pick on me. So I was just like, and I remember him chasing her around the house, flicking her. And she turned on him, and she was running after him, hitting him, and I was laughing because I wasn't getting it. And he said, "Do you remember this?" And you ended up in the laundry room, and he was saying, "Oh, I love it, do it more." And she was hitting him, and then we both ended up hitting him. And I tried to protect you, but I don't know if I did a very good job. So I have so many Peggy things, and Peggy impacted my life in ways that have changed who I was to who I am now, and you never forget something like that. But a memory I have of Peggy was when the first time Peggy ever led worship at SLB Baptist. And so I can't sing worth any, I couldn't carry a tune under any circumstances. I won't be in the choir in heaven. I'll be doing the sound maybe, although I might not do that well. But Peggy was leading music, and Peggy and I were very good friends and spent a lot of time together and knew a lot of things about each other. And she was leading worship, and it didn't go as well as she wanted it to. Now, I didn't really know how badly it went because I can't sing on tune. But Peggy said that she didn't think even God would think that was worshipful. And I said, "Peggy, it was fine, it was great." And she goes, "Barb, you know nothing about music." And I said, "Well, that's true, but I love you, and it was great." And she said, "I am never going to sing again." And I just looked at her and smiled. And I'm so grateful that she did sing again, and that she sang many, many times. And even at her worst, she sounded way better than I would ever sound. So anyway, I loved Peggy. I love Peggy. I love all the memories of her life that were fun and exciting. Meeting Kenny, and Kenny's dog flipped me the first time I met Kenny. I was walking over to see Kenny, and the dog ran under my legs and took me out. I don't know if you remember that. It was at Mount Hermon on the field. But many memories with Peggy and Annie and when Carolee came and when Tully came and getting to be a part of that. Just fun memories that I'll always treasure in my heart. But I love Peggy for so many things, but one of the things I really appreciate is her commitment to my life as a believer, and she really did impact me and change me in ways that make me who I am now. So thank you for sharing Peggy with me.
Just to get quick.
Well, we all love Peggy, and we all miss her. And we all think it was really a little too soon for her to leave, and she never said goodbye. You know how children are. And of course, she should have been second, because Brian should have been first. And of course, their mother should have really been first. But Peggy was a pretty normal child. She loved the Lord. She loved people. I guess you all can attest to that, or you wouldn't be here. She tried her best at anything she did. She was a morning person. She would get up an hour before everybody else, even in high school, to get herself all together to go to school. And then when she got married, because it was all the, you know, once everybody got up, there's no way you can concentrate or do anything. Well, I don't know about you, maybe you can. But she would get up like an hour early to have some coffee and think a little straight, and maybe write in her diary, which I would love to read one of them, because I know she probably had many, and do her Bible study and pray for everyone. And yes, there's lots of stories. Of course, Brian didn't say the time that he put a dart in her leg, because they were in the garage and he wanted to do his dartboard, and she was like 2 or 3 or 4, and she wanted to ride her tricycle, and of course she wouldn't get out of the way, so.
Got her out of the way.
And so many people, I don't recognize all of you, but you probably did. I know some ladies that say, "Who are you?" Well, I'm Peggy's mom. She said, "Oh." So I probably look a little different than I did 20, 40 years ago too. So I love you all. I love the prayers and the love that you gave to Peggy and Annie and Brian and our family. We've got some couples here from a church we went to at least 30 years ago. It's just mind-boggling, the people that have sent cards and have came to the celebrations that they had. And when they got up there, they were talking about this person, and I'm thinking, who is that? You know, you got them from year to year, and then they get married and move away, and you see them maybe once or twice a year, and they're doing a million other things. And I think she must have lived 90 years in her 52 years, the stuff that she did. And then people were, you know, talking about it. But she was human. Don't ever put anyone, even my darling Peggy, on a pedestal, because the Lord knows her heart and knows we all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But He did give His life so that we could be with her later on. So if you don't have that relationship, if you haven't told Jesus that you want to be His child and you want to honor Him and be with Him, please do, because I know she would give her right arm and left leg to see you all there. So anyway, I just love you all, and there's a million other things I could say, but I want you to know that we don't know when, the time, because none of us would have ever thought that all people, would be gone at this time. I would be willing to bet that not anybody in this room would have bet that Peggy would be gone at this time. And she's gone. And you hear this all the time. You hear that the Lord only loans you your children for a while, but somehow that doesn't quite go in here until it happens to you, and then you realize you have this child, but when they give their heart to Jesus, they're not yours anymore, and they're never really yours. They're only loaned to you for a while. So, and the prayers and everything that was with us during the service and everything, we had real peace, Bob and I, and everybody else after the first shock, which lasted a while, had peace about it. Everybody was praying, and the Lord tells us that when you give your life to Jesus, you will have a peace that passes understanding, and that is true, because I was afraid that some people at the funeral that weren't Christians may have thought we were pretty hard-hearted because we were climbing the walls and screaming and crying and blaming someone, but it's the Lord's timing. And we came, and I started saying, well, I know where she's at because she's such a beautiful Christian, but I don't know that. And it says in God's word somewhere, we're not to say that, because if we say we know, we're lowering God, and God is the only one that truly knows. Now, if I was a betting woman, I would bet that that's where she was, but I can't say for sure because only God knows for sure. So anyway, I'm going to like to say some little cookie thing about Peggy, and she was pretty normal. Like some of them said, she did say, there was time. She was like, don't put her on a pedestal. She was just like human, just like you and me. But she was a little more attuned to the Lord Jesus Christ than a lot of us are. But that's basically the only difference. Because we all have sinned. It said in my Bible, it said we all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And that means Peggy as well. So I love her. I'll miss her dearly, and we'll all miss her. But the Lord knows best. And I thank the Lord for the time that I have had her. And the fact that she was my little girl. And everybody said, oh, well, it's because of those wonderful parents. It's not because of those wonderful parents. Because like I said, she's this old and she's out in the world. It's everybody that rubs against her. It's all you guys that rub against her that it's not me. Hi, ladies. I didn't see you. There's people here, I want to hug everybody, but I can't hug everybody, talk to everybody at the same time. During the dance, I'll hug you, okay? Because I don't dance that well. Anyway, I love you. If anybody wants to say something, please do. I love you. God bless you all.
I am Wanda. I attended SLD Baptist, so I grew up, I started going there when I was in junior high, and I just remember how much I thought that Peggy and Kenny were this cool couple, because they were like musicians and everything, and Peggy was doing the worship, and I think I remember that we had a musical or something that we were going to do at the church, and we were all trying out, and I always kind of thought I had a good voice, but I've learned over time, my family reminds me that, like, no, you would never make it on American Idol, and so, but I always try, and I remember we were trying out for this musical, and Annie actually was auditioning as well. She was like deciding who was going to be in the lead role, and of course she gave it to Annie, and I was like, I can't believe I didn't get this role, it must be because she's her sister, and but I later realized after, like my choir director not letting me, in school, having me in dance positions and everything, that maybe it might have been because of my voice, but no, anyway, so I just remember her being involved in worship in the church, and just her brightness, and just always a joy. And then another really special memory for me was when I turned 21, and Kenny and Peggy, we were trying to figure out what band would play at this party I had at Boulder Creek. Do you remember, at the fire department? And they came and they played at my birthday party, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever to have them come and play my 21st birthday party. So so anyway, you guys, your family has always been very special to us, and really sorry for your loss, but I'm really grateful to know that Peggie's probably dancing and singing right now.
Gosh, sorry. Like my grandma said, we're all very grateful that you're here, and we're all grateful to hear your like little snippets of the time you spent with my mom. I think probably the most wonderful thing about my mom is that she loved every person she knew as though they were a part of her family and her life and her most wonderful memory. And she definitely would have spoken all of your funerals, I know that. She also loved, she was good at being in front of people, and anyway. But yeah, she loved everyone she knew like they were her person. So imagine the love that she gave us, specifically Tully and me, but also our family. Like, oh my God. She gave us so much love that it made me bonkers, bananas, crazy. Like, too much. Like, calm down, lady. But I'm just so grateful because she gave me all the love I needed in the time that she could. And way too much even then. But I was her daughter. So she loved me more than you, tell her now. But he has more to love, so. I don't know, I'm just really grateful for the example she gave me in how to love people. She was a friend to everyone, and that was my birthright that she gave me, was to learn how to be a friend to everyone. And Dad, too. But I'm just so pleased that I could watch her really invest her life in other young women and, old women and young men and old men and, like, babies and, like, every person that existed. I just hope that I can love people the way she loved people and affect people the way she affected people, even if it's just with a smile. I don't know, I'm just rambling, but I'm just really, I'm a lucky person. And I'm also incredibly devastated. But I'm really glad to know that she was so meaningful to all of you too. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for your stories. Anybody else who has a story, go for it.
Hey, speaking on behalf of
that era in our lives, San Lorenzo Valley Baptist, First Baptist, there was something magical that happened then. So I'm speaking for, I see a lot of head nods, and Kenny and Peggy were part of that. You brought the music, you brought our focus to God through music, and that was one of God's magical points in many, many of our lives. That's one reason why we're here, is God bringing together those crazy quicks into Heen Road, Benlow, and then into this little funky mountain town area, SOV Baptist, and there was God's hand was on us at that time, and we got to experience that, and you guys were a vital part of that. The Quick family, the marriage. My little story is, you guys got married a week before we did, on a Saturday, and Terry and I got married a week later. You guys came back from your honeymoon early to play at our wedding. Kenny, what were you thinking, man? That was your honeymoon. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the gift of music and really infusing the glory of God through music into our community and into our lives at that point. The joy you brought to us is apparent here. Thank you.
Back home after we got back.
You
So I've known the Quicks since I was 4 years old.
Oh, no.
Yeah. For better or for worse. Brian and I have been best friends now for 51 years. Extraordinary thing in my life. So Peggy was my little sister when we were growing up. And for a year when I was in college, I lived with the Quicks at their house. And Peggy was just learning how to drive. So I took her out driving one day so she could practice, and they had a little tercel. Remember those tercels? They had stick shift. So took her driving, working on stick shift, and then we got back to their house on Red Wing there in Sunnyvale, and the only possible way to park was to parallel park. So I saw this as an opportunity to teach Peggy how to parallel park in a stick shift car that she was just learning how to drive. 20 minutes later, I'm here to testify that Peggy did indeed have a dark side. Because I made her keep going until she got it right. And when finally she did parallel park successfully, she was not happy with me. Sort of stormed in the house. But she did it. But the reason I'm telling this story is because even through all of that, she was never really that mad at me. And I want to say this about Peggy. Peggy was extraordinary because one of the maybe the only person I've ever known who I never heard her say an unkind word about anybody, ever. Even to me, teaching her how to parallel park. And that's really extraordinary. You are a lucky man. The years are too short, but the years you had, you were with an extraordinary woman.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you know. We would try. But, yeah, I was the lucky guy that got to marry Peggy. And 32 years of marriage. And maybe it'd be better if I faced that direction. And I got to see Peggy's dark side a couple of times. She, of course, got to see mine. But I'll have to say, as far as marriages go, I was incredibly blessed. As you've heard them say, she was so positive about everything, never said anything negative about anybody. So imagine a woman bringing that to a marriage and being that kind of supportive person.
incredibly blessed, and blessed with 2 wonderful children as well. And now 3. We have Tucker with us too. You know, I mean, there are just so many ironies here, but God knows, you know, what was supposed to happen. Peggy would have been the best grandma in the world, but she didn't have any grandchildren. Well, we got to pretend a little bit because we were house parents at a maternity home. And yeah, it's just, what can you say? If I stayed here for the next 24 hours, I could tell you all the wonderful things that were a result of me spending time with Peggy. I mean, being able to spend my life with Peggy. So, just want to know I'm grateful for all of you coming, and definitely feel the love. And I was telling somebody, I think in this room, I think I would venture to say that 95% of us will probably end up spending eternity with Peggy in heaven with our Lord, which is a great percentage when you think about it. And so, anyway, I want to tell you I'm grateful that you're here, and I think it's time to dance now, right? Never mind.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set out some food so people can have some fuel for dancing. And the bar is open too if anyone wants to get something to drink. We'll turn on the disco ball and then start the music. And please feel free to stay as long as you can. And thank you we're so grateful to see all of your faces. Thank you so much.
I just really appreciate all the people that came out tonight to celebrate Peggy's life. We had a great time together, talking, dancing, eating. Just wanted to remind everybody what Peggy stood for. She loved people. She loved her family. She loved me. She loved her Savior most of all. And you could really tell by the way she lived out her life. She didn't rely at all on her own righteousness, but completely relied on the righteousness of Christ. And Peggy would be delighted if you did the same. Thank you for coming. Thank you for celebrating her life with us. Thanks.
Forget it.